How long has this been going on? Oh, years, I don't know, off and on. I don't really pay attention because it's always there. And anxiety is one of those things that can often just be low grade, always there.
Exactly.
So you need to remind the system that something's wrong so they can fix it.
What about the genetic connection? If your mother or father had anxiety, what is the likelihood that you are going to be at risk of anxiety?
There definitely is a genetic connection we're seeing in different populations and different ethnic backgrounds as well, but also lifestyle. I find a lot of stress coping mechanisms are what are being passed down through generations or not passed down.
Yes.
So yes, there's a genetic component, but there's that lifestyle component that you learned or didn't learn as a child and how to cope with things and deal with things. So it could be that genetic predisposition, and then a lack of coping mechanisms means that you're going to be manifesting these symptoms more regularly.
For sure. And then there's the personality aspect where if somebody is very clearly it's hard to label, but a type A type personality where they tend to be very more stoic, very go-getter. A part of anxiety is, pushing your emotions deeper down, whereas your body's like a teapot, and if you keep on pouring things in, eventually it's going to crack if you never pour out. So again, just helping and talking about what's happening in your life, and it could be really simple, just kind of discharging for the day. What are some of the other treatments that a naturopath might use?
A lot of herbal remedies can be options as well. Oats, as was already mentioned, can be fantastic. As well as I like to use a lot of teas that people can use ongoing throughout the day.
Okay, and how would a person use teas, and what kind of teas would they think about?
So you want to think about the herbal teas, definitely not the caffeinated ones.
Yeah.
Chamomile is an easy one to find, and most people feel it tastes pretty good. Passion flower would be another one. Valerian could be one. Again, I find chamomile the most accessible in terms of you can go to your local favorite coffee shop and find it.
Yeah.
And most people find the flavor, and kids find the flavor of chamomile fairly tasty. I always recommend go to your favorite herbal or tea shop. There's lots of tea shops popping up all over town, all over the country. Because when you get the fresh herbs, they're much more potent, so from a medicinal perspective, you're getting more of what you want, and they just taste a lot better.
Sure.
I had one patient say chamomile tea was like dirty bath water, and I said, okay.
Just maybe not fresh.
Yeah, maybe go get the fresh herbs and try it again. They're like, actually, it has a bit of a sweeter flavor to it, and it was quite nice. So that patient took a bit more crying, but they came around.
You mentioned something interesting. You mentioned chamomile in children. So with respect to anxiety in children, how can we approach them, and how can we help them?
And similar to adults in many ways in terms of looking at foods and using teas. You might want to cool down a tea if it's too hot for your child. You can even put chamomile tea in their bottle as well. And then homeopathics can be very beneficial there. For kids respond really well to homeopathics, and adults do too. It's find it more useful with kids, and they're very small pills, and you sometimes get them in liquid, which makes it easier for kids to use. And chamomile would be a remedy homeopathically as well that can be used among others. That would be an option.
And for those children that are very shy, how can we help parents understand the difference between just being shy and maybe being anxious, to the point of being anxious?
Of course, always emphasizing communication between parents and kids to get a better understanding of what's going on, and maybe digging in a little bit more. Is there something going on at school or in their play group or in their nursery that is maybe creating a shy, I don't say a shy situation, but maybe there's someone who is a type A personality.
Yeah.
Another kid who's a little bit louder, who's maybe making your kid feeling a little bit shyer, a bit more introverted as well.
Yeah, so really scoping out the situation.
Yeah, and then finding out, are there any other symptoms that are there that could be more of a sign of anxiety? Are there digestive upsets?
Yes.
Some kids love to talk about poop, some don't. So it's starting that conversation gently.
There's a certain age where they just go into the bathroom and they don't want you to come in, and that's it.
I have a book all about poop for my pediatric patients. Yes.
Exactly.
So looking at, are there other symptoms, talking about, do you feel your heart racing? Do you feel a little bit warm, or does your tummy hurt? So finding out about some of those other symptoms that could be more indicative of anxiety as well.
Exactly. There is a connection to depression as well. What is that connection?
I often describe the stress response in the three phases, where phase 2 is the anxiety phase. So when I say stress response, I mean those adrenal glands and
Yes.
the cortisol that they're outputting. And phase 2 is a lot of anxiety. I call it the juggling many balls, like a lot of things going on. And when it gets to a point where your adrenal glands can't handle it, and we're looking more at adrenal fatigue aspects, we're seeing drops in those cortisol levels, which are often linked to the depression.
Yes.
Which I call crying over spilt milk. It's when you've got one more stress or one more concern. And that could be, something as like losing a job, or something
Sure.
internally manifested, as you mentioned earlier, that fear. We could be at the same party and I'm having a fear about something and you're not, and that could be my one more ball that I drop. That causes me to cry over spilt milk.
Exactly. I think it's important that we also speak about sleep, because, sometimes we talk about the condition and we forget about some of the foundational aspects of things that just make sense that they could aggravate. So help us understand the sleep connection and just sort of the relationship to cortisol.
Sleep is needed in terms of when we're looking at cortisol, has a natural daily rhythm, which a lot of people don't fully appreciate. So there's that cortisol rhythm in terms of sleep, and if when we're not sleeping enough or getting very poor quality of sleep, it's not giving our body a chance to regenerate and to produce the amounts of cortisol that we need to have energy and have a happier mood.
Yeah.
And melatonin, which is our big sleep hormone, and estrogen also interact with each other. And like I said earlier, higher estrogen can cause symptoms of anxiety.
Exactly. And also, too, for those people that have difficulties falling asleep, relatively their cortisol is staying too high and they're never really getting into the ability to fall asleep. So more wind down time, I guess, is what we're saying, too. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Prue. Lots of good information. And where can people find you?
Yes, I'm at the Active Health Institute in Barrhaven.
Yes.
So just on Woodruff. I always say by the Kelly Funeral Home, and everyone says it's a terrible landmark.
But everybody knows
Everyone knows
right?
where it
Yes.
is.
And you're doing something very interesting. You've got a ultimate Frisbee charity that you're doing?
Yes, I'm organizing a tournament called the Spirit Charity Tournament, and it will be in the fall, and it's an ultimate Frisbee tournament to benefit Planned Parenthood Ottawa. So I'm very excited. Look for it online. We've got spiritultimateottawa.com.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, so lastly, in closing, essential oils such as bergamot or lavender can be used to help create a state of relaxation before bed during times of higher stress. You can simply place a few drops on your pillow or behind your ears for a healing infusion. Remember that anxiety doesn't begin overnight, and there are psychological changes or physiological changes that are connected that we can pay attention to. And some of those early warning signs, if you don't pay attention, they'll push your body into a generalized anxiety disorder, which can absolutely interfere with your life. There are certain times in your life where hormones are changing that can amplify your risks, so make sure you touch base with your healthcare practitioners. I'm naturopathic Dr. Joelle here on Revive Life, and I'm headed out for a nice walk with my dog and my kids. Join us next time on Foot Health.